Do I want to be a participant? There again.
Read the desk. Oh, I'm tired. Oh,
What after you left?
yeah.
Went through service now. And McGarvey canceled the electrical installation for the line wall. Don't know why, I don't know yet. No.
Well, hear me out. We don't need an electrical one. Why don't we just get a wall? I don't know. I don't have very many walls at the house that plug in, so they're just kind of there.
Well, they want to put a cooler on the wall.
Got outlets, just
No, not that.
woman.
Project's canceled, tore down all that stuff for no reason.
They try and pull something. When they get the fire suppression system out, and they're just like,
No, that's a different project.
I know, but like once that's gone, I'm not going to be able to use the ovens.
For a minimum of 1 day or maximum of 2.
But like they try and like make setbacks, so we'll be back like next week or something like that.
No, Andrew's already made clear that that's not allowed to happen. All right, everything you want.
Yes, it's 4:30. Let's start the meeting. Charter review committee meeting Wednesday, May 3rd. 4:30. Roll call. Richard Angod's excused. Matt Bragdon.
Present.
Bob Higgins.
Present.
Is Monterey.
Present.
Wally Paul excused. Sandy Sullivan.
Present.
Chair Louis Pelletier is here. That's the roll call. We have a question regarding the minutes not being presented yet this last meeting.
Yeah, so I didn't send the minutes out. Me and Louis kind of went back and forth. And I thought, well, I'll just ask the committee before I do anything. These are the minutes and currently how they're laid out. You guys have seen them before, but the last meeting we had, we got a lot of work done. So we really didn't, get to discuss, how in depth I was being in the minutes. And if you look on the screen, this is what they look like. So I take every section that we have, I put the number or the name instead of the number of what part we worked on, and then how many changes we made in total. Obviously, we didn't make that many changes to a lot of sections last time, but I still documented it on the minutes that we did review that section, but we made no changes. Louis said he didn't feel like they needed to be in there. I said I felt like they did as a form of documentation that we did review them for anybody who wasn't watching, the YouTube video or here on Zoom with us. So I wanted to feel how the entire committee felt about whether or not I should remove the ones that have no changes or to keep them the way they are. Again, it really doesn't matter to me. It is 5 pages as it stands right now. And again, there was a lot of sections that we went over that didn't have any changes. So I guess I'm opening it up to you guys to see how you feel about whether or not we should have it in there or not.
I motion that we keep it. I mean, out of transparency.
Okay, if somebody can second the motion, then we can discuss.
I'll second it.
Okay, so now you can state your opinion as to why.
I just think we should, that way out of transparency, everyone can see that we are reviewing the whole thing and not just taking selective pieces.
Any other comments? Anybody else? Yeah, we'll get to her in a minute.
I personally don't mind it. I mean, like you said, in depth, it shows that, the whole thing was reviewed in its entirety. And it goes through, it basically cancels out any questions on whether or not something was brought up, or if anybody has questions about like that specific piece. So to me, it doesn't make much difference to me. I'm not too concerned about 5 pages, so I think it's fine.
And I did limit it as well. Obviously I didn't go into detail about what was changed, because in the first meeting that we had, we discussed keeping it simple and plain. And if they wanted to dive into what changes were made, they could go back and watch the YouTube. And I agree with that statement. If they want to know what was changed, they can either come to the meetings or watch the YouTube.
Sandy?
Yeah, I also agree that it should be left in there, not only for the public's benefit, but for ours. If someone says, did you look at number 510P? We can immediately look at it and say, yeah, we looked at it and no changes were made. We don't have to research. We know we looked at it.
Okay,
So the 510P is the time that we talked about.
Oh,
those changes.
okay. But the personal appeals board, then, we
Correct.
know we looked at it.
okay,
Just so everyone's aware, Wally did just join.
yes,
Do you want me to?
you note that he's joining.
Yep.
Well, I kind of stand by my, point that it's a lot of information and then that it's not really necessary. I mean, we're going through it. People who watch it will see us go through it. And, that proves that point. What would be more pertinent, I believe, is the changes that were made. One or two sentences saying what was changed. That would be more pertinent to have in the minutes than 0 changes made, and we look at this particular section. Well, that being said, any other comments on that, Wally?
I apologize for being late. Turns out that my Zoom software was too old, so it took me a while I got here on time and had to download more software, so I missed the question that we're discussing.
Well, that's not a problem, Wally. What it is the minutes that are shown on your screen right now report by time frame what sections we looked at and whether or not changes were made. Does not report what changes were made, and ends up being a 5-page long set of minutes, which to me is a waste of paper, one thing, and information that really, we're charged with looking at the whole document. We're looking at it, and anybody that wants to know if we look at a section or not can go to YouTube. Anyway, that we've got 4 members so far in favor of keeping it in this format. I'd just like you to weigh in.
So I am curious about how people feel also about what you said as well about a sentence or two.
Yeah, we'll go back around. So just raise your hand when you want to be recognized.
It for me, just looking at it real quickly, it's not a waste of paper unless you print it out. It's a good comprehensive document if we need it.
Okay.
I don't have.
Okay, you all set with the way it is, and how about you?
I am, yeah.
I agree with you. Maybe we should put that in there, what was changed, just a brief so they can understand.
Okay, I'm fine with doing that. So
Okay, so
I will modify this particular document.
set of minutes and
Yeah.
send it out to the committee.
I can do that.
All right. Well, I guess we can vote on, we have a motion, so we have to vote on it. As amended, I take it.
As amended.
And the second one, where that was, that's something you have to report.
I motion we add to the minutes just a brief sentence describing what was changed in each section.
Okay.
A second.
All those in favor?
I'm in-
Unanimous. Unanimous. Fine. Okay, so getting on to the agenda. I believe everybody must have received it. We're starting off with page C5, it is.
Yes,
Chapter
yeah.
1012. Table of contents, we haven't changed any pages, any pagination or anything like that, so table of contents and the section before that doesn't need to be addressed. So we're on C5 at the very top of the page, charter amendments.
C5, C1012 charter amendments, history adopted as the town election held 3/14/1969, amended on 7/11/1974, 3/9/1979, 7/8/1980, and 11/2/1993. Subsequent amendments noted were applicable. General references, general provisions, see chapter 1, art 1, Administration of Government, see chapter 3.
So that section wouldn't have any changes except for
Right.
what happens when it happens. Which would be quite a while. Anybody have any other comments on this section? Seeing none, let's move on.
Article 1, grants of powers to the town, C-101 incorporation. The inhabitants of the town of Millinocket within the limits as now established or as hereafter established in the manner provided by law shall be a municipal corporation by the name of the town of Millinocket, comma, Maine.
Any input on this section? I can't quite see everybody right now, so rely on you to tell me.
Oh, that looks good to me.
C-102, powers of the town. A, the town shall have, exercise, and enjoy all the rights, immunities, powers, and privileges and franchises, and shall be subject to all the duties, liabilities, and obligations provided for herein or otherwise pertaining to or incumbent upon said town as a municipal corporation or the inhabitants or municipal authorities thereof. It may enact bylaws, regulations, and ordinances not inconsistent with the Constitution and laws of the state of Maine, and impose penalties for the breach thereof not exceeding $100 in any one case to be recovered to the use of said town by appropriate action. Section B, the town may acquire property within.
Just takes it
Sure.
by section.
All right, section.
There was a change in that section. I think, did you have it noted? On section A?
Give me 1 second, I'll pull it up. What I forgot to do is pull all these notes. C-102. Get the format right. So on the left side of the screen is going to be Wally's notes, and on the right side will be our working document. Sorry, it's been a pain. So he had a change highlighted of not exceeding $100 in any one case to be recovered to the use of said town by appropriate action. And the revision would, I guess, the revision is a minimum of, oh, that is the revision. Okay.
Yeah, a minimum of $100 unless a lower.
To
Set by
be
council.
recovered to the said town by appropriate action. So the highlighted is his, or the revised, a minimum of $100 unless the lower minimum is established by a council.
So in discussion on that change, proposed change. It's got-
I agree with it. I mean, if you look at some of the stuff that might be coming down the pipe,
So you like the lower minimum than the 400 that was originally there,
unless a lower minimum, correct?
unless the lower minimum
Yeah.
is set by council order.
Okay.
Anybody else on that?
I agree with them.
Yeah, and in fact, maybe even, I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, say unless the minimum is lowered, say the less the minimum is waived by the council. You know, you bring some, you have a problem with an ordinance. Someone decides $100 is pretty cheap. I'll just pay the $100 and keep doing what I'm doing. But
So maybe that would be
that's not a healthy thing. We need to be able to correct the action that we're having a problem with. But at the same time, if someone is genuinely working at it and the council sees it and decides, okay, there is action on this, it's not as fast as we want it, but we like what we're seeing, so we'll just waive it for now. I guess
You'd like to see that there's an option to waive the penalties for any particular infraction to the code. Is that what you're saying, Wally?
Yeah, kinda, but I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just throwing it out there.
Wouldn't,
Oh, I think there should be some kind of penalty. I mean, we're not getting anywhere, not penalizing for infractions.
I agree.
got a question. Isn't that where the appeals board would fall into play?
So what?
The appeals board?
No, the appeal board does not set penalties. They,
I mean, if someone's disagreeing with the penalty they've been given,
they could appeal, but if it's already set by charter.
okay, no, just
or
asking.
by order of a particular council.
No, that's a good question, actually.
I mean, they could appeal the amount as well as the infraction for that matter,
Correct.
the appeals board. But that's stated elsewhere, you know, it's. This is just concerning what the amount,
If you look at,
before it was not to exceed $400. Now we're leaving, by saying a minimum, we're leaving out the maximum. Is what we're doing. So, you know, there's some infractions to
Not
the
exceeding,
junkyard ordinance and things like that, you know, might want to have a high penalty to get them to move to do their,
can I see yours?
to do what they were ordered to do. Clean
Yeah,
up the
there's no
property.
400.
You said 400, but my copy and the copy that you guys have all say 100.
The original? Or the rose?
the original,
The original says, not exceeding $100 in any one case to be.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It looked like a 4 because I had a line front. Yeah, okay, but anyway, yeah, not to exceed $100, which is, the discussion back then was that's a minimal amount to be trying to get like property
Right, right.
infractions in force. And if you can get a bigger penalty, then it can be lien against the property, just like taxes, whatever.
So if we're talking about like fluctuating the amount that could be penalized, are we trying to like thinking about implementing a kind of different sentence that would more accurately describe like a
I think there should be a
potential
minimum.
minimum and like height cap here?
We don't want a maximum, I think, depending on what ordinance we're talking about, or what infraction we're talking about. Council may want to set a higher amount. for that
So like a
particular-
severity.
Yeah,
Okay.
But would we want to make it kind of a little bit more
So-
understood that
What if it read a minimum of $100 unless a lower minimum or
higher minimum?
well,
the higher would be, I'm talking about the waiving thing that Wally was getting to.
right.
And a minimum of $100 unless a lower minimum is established by the council or waived.
Yeah, you know, looking at it, even if we leave it the way it is, it all means the same thing.
Yeah,
Can you think of an?
And my scenario in my head is if you've got a person that his yard is junked up and you know they're working on it, then maybe you'll let it go. But if a business moves into town and started dumping barrels of toxic waste on house lots or something like that and just stacking it there, we might want to be putting $100,000 on there to make it stop. You know, you got to have the flexibility to deal with whatever's coming down the pike. You got to have compassion, but you got to have tools too.
So would an example, Wally, be that your grass is too tall, we're gonna waive it because you know you're mowing it? I'm
Yeah.
just trying to,
Yeah,
Or of the
that-
person's,
that'd
you
be one of
know,
the simple things, you know.
yeah,
I think also
Well-
in some of the ordinances, they've got it written if it's more than your first violation of it. I think it progresses, if I remember right. It depends on which ordinance you're actually,
well, one thing is, we don't wanna be too specific here, because we want the specificity to occur at council level, depending on what issues we're talking about. This is a charter and it has to stand for time, you know what I
Right.
mean? Just,
I think leaving it, like you said, kind of broad and leave it up to the council is the direction to go. I think the minimum of 100 is perfect. And leaving the option for the council to waive it, given if there is an ordinance that is severely outdated, that has not been updated, or for example, someone can't cut their grass because they're immobile and unable to do so.
disability or whatever.
Yeah, a disability, whether it be, then the council has the right to waive it. I think it leaves it open for discussion for the council to decide on.
So,
So go
Yeah.
as suggested now.
No, I'm recommending we add at the end of it or waive.
Why don't you put that up there so we can see how it reads?
And actually, if we're gonna do that, don't put it at the end, put it established or waived by the council. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like that, there. I think that handles it better grammatically.
I agree.
Is anybody against this wording? Hearing none, let's move on.
Section B. The town may acquire property within or without its corporate limits for any town purpose in fee simple or any lesser interest or estate by purchase, gift, devise, lease or condemnation, and may sell, lease, mortgage, hold, manage, and control such property as its interest may require. In this chart, oh, I'm sorry, staying on section B.
So.
There is no recommended changes for section
Oh,
B.
well, I got one. I think devise should be device.
How do you spell it differently?
Yeah,
D-I-V-I-C-E. Isn't that right? Am I wrong there?
Oh, there is a C in device.
DIV, you said, what, you cut out.
D-E-V-I-C-E.
For like cellular device, not so much devise. In technical terms, I mean, it would make sense.
I may be wrong, but it seems like,
Device, lease, it says, yeah. Device, lease, devise. Oh, devise means it was created, lease. It's an adjective.
Plan or invent a complex procedure, system, or mechanism by careful thought. In law, it means leave real estate to someone by term of will, and it is spelled D-E-V-I-S-E.
Yeah,
okay,
so it's a legal terminology, Wally.
okay.
Do we keep it?
All right, so no change on that one.
Any changes to the second part, or?
I haven't heard anybody raise a hand there.
Okay, section C, there is a recommended change for this one. Section C, in this charter, no mention of a particular power shall be construed to be exclusive or to restrict the scope of the power which the town would have if the particular power were not mentioned. The charter shall be liberally construed to the end that the town may have all the powers necessary or convenient for the conduct of its municipal affairs, including all powers the town may assume pursuant to state laws of the provisions of the state constitution. I have a recommendation, but I'm going to read Wally's first. He has the entire section, the first sentence highlighted and deleted. So it would read, the charter shall be liberally constructed to the end that the town liberally construed to the end that the town may have all the powers necessary to convenient for the code of its municipal affairs, including all powers the town may assume pursuant to state laws and the provision of state constitution. For you guys on Zoom, I'm going to show you what it looks like.
I don't remember the conversation about why we did this, about why this came up.
Because it was
necessary?
kind of redundant. It's the second part of the section is what is intended, and it fulfilled, you know, the need. And I think the word that was going to be struck of that. The charter shall be liberally construed to the end, the town may have all powers necessary. I mean, you know, blah, blah, blah. In other words,
So like that,
Well,
and then you said a comma as well.
in that either way. I'm not hung up on that. I thought we discussed that at one point. Keep it in there or not.
The charter shall be liberally construed to the end. The town may have all the powers necessary or convenient for the conduct of municipal affairs, including all powers the town may assume pursuant to state laws of the provisions of the state constitution. I would like to change the end where it says the state of Maine Constitution to be more specific.
Sure.
Yeah, that's okay.
Gotta remember, we were once Massachusetts.
Yeah. That's reaching back. Okay.
True, it is, but. Anything else?
Anyone? No?
All right, let me
Okay.
bring up C201.
We agree with that. Moving on to Article 2, Town Council, Section C201, membership and election terms.
Okay. Okay. Article 2, Town Council, C201, membership election terms. The Town Council should be composed of seven members, which of whom shall be elected by the registered voters of the entire town. Each member shall be elected for a term of 3 years and until his successor is elected and qualified. Wally's recommended change is changing his to their, so that will look like
That was the only change we made.
that's the only recommended change.
Yeah.
I'm to talk about term limits being added to this section for a total of 2 consecutive terms and then having to take a mandatory break for at least 1 year. Thoughts?
I'm all for it. I agree. They even talked about it at the state level, and that there are, and it's noted in the back of our fold, of our binders and everything. They specifically talk about term limits. And if you want me to read it, I can read it.
The state does?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
curious to see
Okay,
what
it
they have
says,
to say.
qualification duties of municipal office officials, term limits. As the debate continues in the state and federal level as to whether constitutional amendments should be considered establishing term limits for representatives, 8 municipalities have already created council term limits. 3 charters impose term limits on the office of school board members or positions on appointed boards. 1 charter places term limits on the office of mayor. The favorite term limit for a council seat is 2 consecutive terms, although 3-term and 4th-term limits were also designated.
They mentioned the amount of time between.
Nope, but if you follow some of the other seats, some of the other federal, even in the federal governments, they have a gap.
Is it a year? Is it 2 years? Is it a term of 3 years? That's what I'm kind of curious.
That I don't have the information on.
I can do some research real quick
Yeah.
if you wanna.
Now, let's take a quick look into that and meanwhile, I'd like you to think about when we do have elections. Yes, Sandy, go ahead.
I believe we already have term limits in the form of voting. If the registered voters of the town of Millnocket do not think you are doing your job, they are going to vote you out. And in my estimation, that is a term limit. Also, if you look at the last time I knew, there were 3 people who have taken out papers to run for Steve Gottlieb's position. None of these are new names. They are all people who have already served. So if your thought is it'll give other people a chance to run, not necessarily. I just believe we already have term limits. So
Okay.
I don't think it's necessary to change this charter to reflect that.
Thank you, Matt.
That, I believe that there is a new person running that has not served on the
No,
council. if I'm
papers aren't
mistaken.
turned in yet, but
Right, but
Yes,
they've been
they are.
taken out. They are turned in?
Tammy McGall did turn in nomination.
so anything
I
else
mean,
you want
there
to
is one fresh
add? Other than that, anything
Well,
else you want to
the
add?
last election we had, there were several new names on it, and some of the members that are on the ballot this time have not served in some time, that I'm aware of at least.
Well, more than a year's break, but
Correct.
I'm concerned with, you know, continuity of what's going on, but, we don't get many people running.
And I think there should be a caveat in our charter that we can add that if there are members that are running either unopposed or there's no one on the ballot that's, or there's no one willing to run that has not served.
Well, if they run unopposed, that's one thing.
Right.
Is there a way of making,
Well,
if we were to maintain limit, other than just cut and dry, maybe having a higher vote count for somebody that's an incumbent, that kind of thinking. I mean, there's all kinds of ways you could alter that to
so this is a main state.
limit somebody's continuity.
This is a main state statute that's currently in place.
Yeah.
Cities with a population of 5,000 or more may provide by ordinance for a board assessment review consisting of 5 to 7 members. The term of office for members must not exceed 5 years. For initial appointments must be such that the term of office for no more than 2 members will expire by a single year. I know that doesn't really.
Board of assessment review.
Right, exactly. This is what it says in the main statute. I'm not really seeing anything in depth like what you found.
Mm.
But I mean, there's tons of qualifications
Sure.
and statutes that they have to.
It's a guideline, yeah.
Yes.
I'm of two minds on this. I have for the longest time agreed with Sandy completely on that. I think that elections are the term limits. I'm getting concerned on a national level that we have 90-year-olds
Yeah.
trenched. I mean, I'm seeing both sides of the argument. I definitely am not interested in anything that's just going to complicate the process. It's already involved and it's already difficult. We don't want to make up and coming people, you don't make it too challenging so that people don't step forward and do this. It needs to be as simple as it can be, yet as comprehensive as it can be too. So if I heard the right thing about term limit, if I heard something that I thought really made sense and kind of solved the problem that I'm seeing, I would say, geez, let's do that. But nothing pops into my head that takes care of it any better than what we have right now. I mean, we can start talking more. You can write letters to the editor and saying, time for a change, time for refreshment here. But
yeah, before I get to Sandy and your point on ageism being
yeah. Well, I mean,
on that is well taken. But no matter how you approach a cure for that, you're gonna get
shutting somebody down.
Yeah, you're gonna get on somebody's constitutional right. Maybe have to pass a mental acuity test or some damn thing. I don't know. Then we're getting on something else, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Sandy.
Well, here again, those 90-year-olds are being voted in by their constituents. And so it's not like they're voted in once when they're 21 and they just stay there forever. They are voted in term after term by their constituents who seem to feel that they're doing a good job. And I also agree. I would like to know, Matt, how long it took you your first term to feel like you were confident in knowing what you were doing on the town council. it's my opinion that it's a pretty complicated, it's a pretty complicated process. And you can't expect people to be voted in and sit down the next day and know everything about the town. It takes a process. So by the time you're second, you're in there for the second time, you're probably pretty confident and you are able to do your job confidently, but not for the first 6 months or year, I don't think.
Okay,
Can I,
thank you.
can I respond
Bob.
since she addressed me?
No,
Oh,
that,
that's a good point. That's a good point. The first year for me was a learning experience, that's for sure. I tell people I learned all kinds of things, and not all of them did I want to know, actually, but
Okay, well, thank you. It's Bob's turn here.
no, I agree with you all. I mean, being this my first time elected in and I'm under the year, I fully understand that, and I won't deny that I'm still learning it, and that's why I asked the questions. Because no one in this room is smarter than all of us, not one person. But the reason I'm saying is the term limit, and even like you mentioned, doing it after 2 terms. That way you've gotten through your first, you've built up your knowledge, and you've learned, and then you go into your second term. I just suggest that there's a break in between, and that also helps prevent the careerism like we're having at the federal level.
We have careerism at this level as
And
well.
that's why I'm saying that there should be just a gap. And then as far as I understand what Sandra's saying as well, as she thinks the term limits are set by the election. But as everyone in town knows, and I've heard many people talk about it, a lot of times they go in, they want to vote, yes, they want to participate, yes, but they vote for a name that they know. So it's a familiar name, so why change it? This way, and a lot of people, if you're that want to try to run for one of the seats, if it's a new name and you see someone that's been running for 3, 4 terms, whatever, and then, well, I'm not going to take the chance because I probably won't win because they recognize this name and it's been in there for a long period of time. I just think it would help stop some of the careerism.
I've heard that this year.
Go ahead.
So responding to the question that was asked of me, I'm still learning, but that's anywhere you go. You start a new job, and which I recently did, and I'm still learning in that, and I've been there for 2 years. There are always going to be new things to learn, new policies and procedures that are going to come about, especially when we're, changing a charter that all of the councilors are eventually going to have to look at. Well, should look at. Let me rephrase that. To understand what exactly we're governing over. It's an ever moving motion of gears, and it's just too complicated to learn, even in 2 terms, to be completely honest with you. However, you're right, there is a learning curve, and it took me about 6 months, but I also had, counselors that, sat down with me, showed me the way, answered questions for me. And I reached out personally to several counselors that were not on the council anymore that guided me, gave me advice. Dick and Gotti gave me a lot of suggestions and advice on how to approach things, and so did Mike Medor. Steve taught me, Robert's rules and the proper proceedings, which I still make mistakes, and everyone's going to be that way. So I don't think that limiting it because of someone's knowledge or capability to learn or the learning curve should, limit, people running. It doesn't scare people, absolutely, but I think what scares people more is when they get put on a ballot, like you said, with 3 names that have been running for 20 plus years, and they feel like they don't stand a chance because their name's on the ballot every 3 years. Which I've heard this year. I've asked people to run and they're like, I'm not running against XYZ. They're careering it, or they're too well known, or XYZ this or XYZ that. I think this is going to open it up for more ideas and suggestions and inclusivity from members of the public, which we've obviously seen one person put in their name, which I'm super happy to see that there's a change. But I think we're gonna get more of those people if we have term limits, and it's a small break. It's not like we're asking for, 6 years for you to take a break. We're asking, or you're permanently barred from doing it. We're just asking for you to take a year off. So,
Yeah, the seats are staggered. So there's a certain amount of vacancies each election.
Yeah,
So-
it's not as if the tenor of the whole council will change.
Correct.
Abruptly, it'll take a few terms still. I don't find a year being a hard pill to swallow in the way of term limits, but I can't equate local elections with what goes on national, not in one. I mean, it's 180 degrees difference. Look at the money and the binary system that you're stuck with for choices on a national level,
Yeah.
Running into it, and you end up with two parties putting their worst, least of all evils, or whatever it is, and when you get to vote, that's how you feel. The lesser of the evils, what you're voting for. You're not voting for anybody progressive or new or whatever. And it's grassroots changes like what we're trying to establish here that will hopefully bring new blood and younger blood into the process. I'm really taken aback by when I see people run, that they are actually not in their 40s and 50s and have something at stake. Maybe it's because of the social media blowback that occurs nowadays. You've got to have thick skin. You just can't and feel like you have nothing to lose. If you're a business owner, or popularity matters in your income level or whatever, insurance salesman or whatever, you can't afford to take a hard stance on something that's progressive or even conservative for that matter. And that's why they don't run. And we end up with people that are retired that don't feel they have anything to lose.
I would like
Yes,
to
Matt.
put a motion on the floor. Before we finalize C201 membership elections, or Article 2 for that matter, I suggest that we return to this next meeting to give time for research to look into what other municipalities are doing for those that are interested, to bring to the table. So I motion that we table this portion of Article 2 until next meeting.
C201.
C201.
Second,
Okay, there's a second.
I'll vote for that.
But discussion on the motion.
No, I'm voting for it, except.
I think Sandy raised her hand.
Sandy?
I did, yep.
Okay, so all those in favor?
table.
All opposed? It's unanimous. Table section C201. And I'd like to add, maybe there was a way of getting a quick survey out there. It would be nice, see what the local,
Mr. Manager.
we
also-
have all the
Just
communication.
keep piling it on, we can do it.
We have the letter or whatever.
It's monthly, but we can use that. We can use that platform at any time, and we can specifically create a survey from it. We can also, now that we have text messaging capability, for those watching at home, please sign up for
Yeah.
text message communication from the town of Milwaukee.
Now,
Two people that
But we
watch.
can send the link out via email,
that's my
social media, text messaging. Keep trying to get as
Yeah,
much
what-
feedback as we can.
I'd appreciate if you could do that in any way, format, whether you think you can do it. We haven't got time really to do a newspaper thing,
Right.
but that may just help our popularity and get some Zoom participants from the public,
I agree. And I think if we table this until next time and we mention that we're talking about this, and the survey goes out, we may get more participants next meeting.
Yeah, there you go.
Or even if they, just like they did with
Yeah.
the library, they sent out a bunch of emails.
That was my thing when we talk about, like,
Term limits. We'd like to have
people getting voted in all the time, and how many people are
Yay,
actually going out
nay,
to
or-
vote? How many people are actually paying attention to this stuff? So of course, the same person's gonna get voted in, because we're probably not getting much of any different voters every year.
And that's kind of the point. So I mean,
social media, put it out there everywhere. The Facebook thing and.
okay, so I'm gonna.
They sent the emails for the library. I mean, they can do yay and nay on this as well.
This is probably the one issue that might get some public interest.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. We'll take table.
Table to next meeting.
And I put that right in here for those that are watching at home. That way we don't forget when we come back to this. It's highlighted that we have tabled it.
Table C 201. For term limits. Note that the agenda that move on from there.
Okay, C202 qualification, the councilman shall be qualified elected, oh, hold up, there is a change in here from Molly. Councilmen shall be qualified electors of the town and shall reside in the town during the term of office. They shall hold no office, how do you pronounce that? Emolument?
Yeah. To make money, to be paid.
Emolument is
Yeah.
they're getting some money or something worth anything, you know.
Or
Benefit,
profit under the
benefit.
town charter or ordinances. If a councilman shall cease to possess any of these qualifications or shall be convicted of a crime involving moral turpitude, his or her office shall be immediately become vacant. I find it funny that this is like one of the only sections that shows his or hers. Just saying.
And this point in here, I think we eliminated it in the change. Turpitude, something that's never been defined and used.
That is not in his changes, actually. The one that I got from Molly.
Oh, really?
No, it shows councilman to counselor, councilman to counselor, and his or her to just there.
I don't have anything wrong, dude. I mean,
Well, here's the funny part about turpitude. The ha 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 ha. The definition of that is very broad. It basically leaves it up to a board of people to decide whether or not something's that your morals have been violated is basically what it means. And I don't think that's fair because there have been crimes that have been committed in the past that some people have seen as absolutely outrageous, and some that are absolutely petty. So where's the fine line between what's petty and what isn't? Like, what's the defining factor that moral turpitude has been initiated?
Yeah, it would be, what, you know, felony versus a misdemeanor kind of a.
Yes.
One
And
of the examples from my high school civics class, and this is not exactly what it was, but if somebody walked into a business and shot it up, that would be easy.
Yeah.
However, if somebody were a severe alcoholic and was drunk at every meeting, they have not broken any laws, but they're not doing the town any favor at the same time. You know, if this became a disruptive thing, the vagueness of moral turpitude kind of lets you step in on issues, even on a challenging one like a substance abuse problem or something like that. You don't know what's coming down the line, and there may be something that you're going to have to deal with in your own council amongst yourselves, and you got to have a tool so at least you can get at it and do it.
Yeah, okay.
To respond to that, and I understand where you're coming from, Wally, and I agree, but it says convicted of a crime involving moral turpitude. So if somebody's showing up to a meeting drunk or, you know, under the influence at a meeting, they still haven't been convicted of a crime. So there's nothing we could do even at that point, other than, you know, probably sit down with them, have a chat about
Public
it.
intoxication would not a crime per se.
But what if they're on Zoom and they're participating in a meeting? You know, they're still participating in a meeting, but they're not technically in person. And now that we have, you know, a Zoom policy.
Well, I think our Zoom policy, if they're visual and named as part of the meeting, they're same as if they were in the room.
Well, you can't charge somebody for public intoxication if they're at home on Zoom, though. That's what I'm saying.
No.
They would have to be charged. So I think there needs to be a deciding factor on what a crime is, or change the word moral turpitude and have it be a lot more specific. I just don't think that I think it's very left
Broad.
open. It's way too broad.
Yeah.
Well, that's.
And I noticed one more thing too.
I'm just saying my opinion, okay?
Shouldn't there be some reference to being a resident of Millinocket?
I was going to bring that up next. I didn't want to jump into two different topics, but
I
was in
didn't
there.
notice that before, but that's kind of a hole there.
it just says shall reside in the town during the term of office. It doesn't say that we need a proof of residency, you know, which has come up in recent discussion.
Well, reside is more narrowly defined as
Yeah,
you
I
gotta
guess
be here all year, not go spend 6 months anywhere else.
Right.
Whereas residents, you can be gone months, not have an issue.
Well, do we put like shall
Like Bob
reside
here
in
can
the
be on the
town
road
of
half the year.
Millinocket
Right, which I am, but
during the term of office?
Yeah, we wouldn't want to expand that to, you have to be a resident 10 years before you get elected.
right.
I do agree with Gage's point. I think it should read shall reside in the town of Millinocket.
In two places. There's two places in that, in the first line and in the second line where it says town. And it should say town of Millinocket.
That was no big deal. But we're still not getting to the meat of this thing.
Well, I think this is a very important portion of it, though. I
It
mean,
is important.
Town of Millinocket Charter.
shall be qualified electors of the town of, what would I do? Is that what you're talking about,
No, I think
Sandy?
reside in the town of Millinocket.
Yeah, I can't see, you don't have it
Oh,
up on
am I
the
not
screen.
sharing?
Not sharing.
Whoops. All right, hold on.
Whoops.
That's my bad. There we go. How's that? Is that better?
Okay, and this is 202.
Yes. So I got rid of the councilman. I haven't put in the counselor section yet. Okay, strike through, turn that one off, and then do this one, counselor. And then strike through, I missed the R. Oh, my word.
Let's review your change when you get to that point, and then we'll move on to the other page.
Okay, so how it is now going to be read. Oh, hold on, I gotta.
Is your people showing, blocking your text?
For the people that are viewing that's recording, yes, it would. But I can't change that. That would be a Peter thing.
What's that?
The viewers may be either taken off, moved to the other side, maybe in the center.
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, because again,
Kind
We
of,
can do that.
Well, we can't see Sandy or when they raise their hands now.
we were trying to get some.
That's better. I like
How
that.
about if I just talk?
That's great. That brings you to the front of the line every time.
We could slide bar it, we could scoot them up at the top.
Okay, so let's read it and see what.
So for the changes that we have already made, including Wally's changes, it would read, as of now, councilors shall be qualified electors of the town of Millinocket and shall reside in the town of Millinocket during the term of office. They shall hold no office of emolument or profit under the town charter or ordinances. If a councilor shall cease to possess any of these qualifications or shall be convicted of a crime involving moral turpitude, their office shall be immediately become vacant.
all the counselors should be capitalized and pluralized, have an S on the end.
Well, I don't think the one that I'm editing right now should. If a counselor, it's talking about one particular, but I do agree with the first.
Yeah, okay, sorry about that. I'm gonna wash my glasses, I guess.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're down to the last sentence again. Crime involving moral turpitude.
Well, maybe the easier battle to fight would be Wally's second recommendation on how would we prove someone lives in town. Maybe if there's a complaint, there's a process that goes about proving that you're a citizen. I don't know. I'm just speaking out loud. So where it says,
Opens a big can of worms depending on how you word it.
if a counselor shall cease to possess any of these qualifications or shall be convicted of a crime involving moral turpitude,
now that moral turpitude is left up to the sitting council.
Their office shall immediately become vacant.
I mean, there's a lot of crime, not a lot of crimes, but a lot of charges out there against that happens, you know, like OUI or whatever,
Right.
that are acceptable today for counselors, sitting counselors for some
That
reason.
didn't used to be back when this was originally written.
Yeah,
And now, as of recent, there's obviously been complaints and conversations about whether or not that should be allowed or not.
right.
Do we convert to the point of like within reason? Or
Well, that's why I'm saying there should probably be a fine line on what
Is there-
crime is considered okay or not.
Is there a way of stating it that any felony, no, that would be immediate?
If a counselor shall cease to possess any of these qualifications or shall be convicted of a felony,
Or, and then leave the ability.
Why does it have to say involving moral turpitude? Why can't it say convicted of a crime?
Well, because there are certain things that fall under moral turpitude that the public would want that person out of office.
and if we're
Think
talking,
back to what's happened with the past police chief and all the uproar from the public in that whole scene.
or what about speeding? Would we consider speeding a crime and getting caught? I mean, it's too, if I get charged for speeding, it's technically a crime. Do I get kicked off the council for going 5 miles over the speed limit?
That's more
How about
misdemeanor.
a
it's not
crime
a
involving-
felony.
It's still a crime,
Moral-
which what she's saying.
let's say
That's
you
why
do
I
that
said felony.
repetitively.
You know, we could say definitely if it's a felony, boom, you're off.
How about DUI?
Right.
If a
Yeah.
counselor drinks too much and gets caught, are they done?
So should it say while they're in office? Convicted of a felony while in office, or convicted of a felony OUI and DUI and or DUI during their term of office?
Well, I would think that would be the only time it's pertinent.
Right, but it should be specified that, because if a felon tries running, you know, do they not get elected because they've already been convicted of a crime?
In our history, we elected one of those.
I
He's
know,
our
but
chair.
I know that, but what I'm saying is would that bar him from being in it?
No. Oh, if you don't specify.
Exactly.
Right, it should be an office.
I
And,
I
yeah,
think
follow it
we
on.
may want to discuss this part with a lawyer.
Well, we're gonna be bringing a lawyer on to review it anyway, aren't we?
Yeah,
they have to
all
review.
these proposed changes, they're gonna be reviewed by the lawyer. And he'll recommend some of these kind of changes that we're talking about right now. Because, you know, opens too big a can of worms and he'll narrow his suggestions down. And then, given what we're changing, he'll decide which process we have to initiate to get it into a track of being passed.
Okay, I'm gonna put something up that, just like a starter conversation.
Sure.
Convicted of oh my word, can this please turn blue? Convicted of a felony,
While in office.
DUI, and or OUI during their term of office.
Why DUI or OUI?
Driving under the influence, operating under the influence. They're two different crimes.
In the state, I thought we only had the one. The different states use different.
No,
Well,
driving because it's in the vehicle and operating is
Yes,
using
driving under the
snowmobile.
influence
UTV, ATV.
Yep,
instead of intoxicated because it covers marijuana and other drugs,
correct.
prescription drugs, whatever. It's only DUI in name, if I'm not mistaken. And then we want to leave the moral turpitude ability in there.
So you want to have it read, convicted of a felony, DUI during their term of office, hold on. Oh, shall be convicted of a felony, DUI, or crime involving moral turpitude during their term of office.
That's specifically says we don't appreciate these two, you know, there's a dividing line for that level of. And the other ones are like, well, what's the public think about it? And it,
Okay, so to read it with what we currently have, it would read, councilors shall be qualified electors of the town of Millinocket and shall reside in the town of Millinocket during their term of office. They shall hold no office of emolument or profit under the town charter or ordinances. If a councilor shall cease to possess any of these qualifications or shall be convicted of a felony, DUI, or crime involving moral turpitude during their term of office, their office shall immediately become vacant.
Yeah, I'm having a little problem with it. I think that the felony and DUI is tying your hands. There are obviously felony crimes that all of us right now want. If somebody is there, we want them out.
yeah,
Well,
what,
turpitude too, to me, that winds up being sex crimes and child molesters and things like that.
We left the moral turpitude part in there.
Yeah.
We just
What-
moved it to the middle
What
of
I'm
the sentence.
saying is that there are all kinds of things that you want to leave flexibility. But to me,
Well,
we're writing this for a council 20 years down the line, not for us today.
exactly. Well,
And if somebody comes along and makes a slip, they rarely drink, they drive down from camp, they get busted, they go and pay the fine or do their days, whatever it is. I don't know. I don't drink, so I don't follow it, but they've been real strong counselors and are generally known to be upstanding people. Slip one time, what you're saying is they're gone, even if the
Well,
council doesn't think that, even if the town doesn't think that.
Wally,
You know, you're leaving no flexibility for your
Wally,
7 counselors.
Wally,
Yeah,
that this is committing that crime while in office.
yeah.
And
We've had counselors do it. Lou.
and I'd like you to tell me what felony you think would be acceptable for a sitting councilman while in office.
I don't know. I don't know. Every day they come up with new laws. I don't know.
If a person is convicted of a felony, there's a good chance they're going to prison. They're not going to be able to do their job from prison. So it's going to bar them from doing their job because they're behind bars.
Yeah. Well, we can
For-
zoom in.
for the we can zoom in, yeah. So you know, the DUI part is what I suggested putting in there during their time of office. And it doesn't say that they can't rerun, you know, the following year. It just says they're done for the year. You know, it does not say they're barred from rerunning. It just says you're done for the year. And I think that's fair. I think if you commit a crime while you're in office, I think you need probably a year to figure out where your life's going, personally.
Year or the rest of your term, whatever.
Right, or the rest of your term. Well, and it doesn't state that. I think they just
Well,
should have the chance
Yeah,
rerunning.
Well, okay. Not on this portion of it, but as far as shall reside in the town of Millinocket, my question there is, yes, you reside in Millinocket, but what if you're some of those people that have a camp in an unorganized town or territory and go up to camp during the summer?
They're not living there 6 months out of the year.
Okay. I
Yeah.
think that's where that question has come into play before, though.
Yeah.
as long as they have a home that's their resident, no,
Okay,
that's
so-
their tax base.
I believe the state of Maine law states that you are a resident if you live 6 months out of the year at that location. I
6
don't-
months and 1 day.
6 months and 1 day is what it is. So if they're living at camp,
We don't have
4
6
months
months
out of the year.
summers.
No, we don't have 6 months summers.
right? So because like I go live at camp.
Nope. I mean, I just know that's something that's been brought up before in the past, so we needed to get it out there and aired.
They'd
is what
have,
I'm saying.
they'd be a taxpayer and they'd have to have a home in the town.
Well, there's some people that own property in the town that don't reside here and they pay taxes here in town.
And that's why I was saying, how would we prove that they're a 6 month and
Resident
1 day out of the
versus-
year? Yeah, a resident versus like a snowbird or. I think there should be some kind of verification that they live here 6 months and 1 day out of the year, personally.
Yeah. Well, you can say, what's on your driver's license? Where did you
Well-
mail?
And I think that changes too, though. You're not required to change that every time.
Yeah, my driver's license currently says that I still live at my
How
apartment. I
about
have
your
not.
tax return? Residency tax.
How would you want to word that and where would we
But
put
some
it?
residents, they have their tax return sent to a post office box.
No, they have to state that they're, in order to get state benefits of that tax. Like say,
Homestead.
Florida's non-tax
Right.
income tax, and New Hampshire's non-income tax. So if you claim one of those on your tax return, from the feds, you know,
I get what you're trying to say.
for
Right.
state tax, then you can't be a state of Maine resident.
But you've got to be a resident of the town. So there's got to be something that says,
When you state residency in the state, you have to name the town.
Man, that's
You
very,
have to have a physical address. And you have to maintain residency there.
it's hard to
yeah.
iron down.
And then some people may not pay taxes. I was not paying taxes until they made me a counselor. Tried to volunteer as a counselor, and no, you have to be an employee because you have different liabilities and responsibilities as an employee.
Oh,
Fought
that's
that
like
battle
being a
for-
registered
fought that
voter.
battle.
So would it be a registered voter of,
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a good point.
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I agree.
You have to have residency in order to be a voter.
exactly.
So shall reside in the town of Milwaukee during their term of office and show proof with a voter ID card? How would you word that?
Show proof as a resident voter of the town of Millinocket.
Now.
Yeah, that forces them to be a voter. Shall be,
You don't have to be registered as a voter.
Yeah, registered
and shall be a registered voter of the town of Millinocket.
during the term of office and shall be a registered voter. Repeat that, I'm sorry.
Registered voter for the,
Yeah,
Of the,
for the town of Millinocket.
Be a registered voter of the town of Millinocket.
Checked all that and it's not in blue.
I know, I'm gonna go back and highlight it. A registered voter of the town of Millinocket, their entire.
Term.
Be a registered voter of the town of Millinocket during their entire term in office.
Sorry, I'm sorry, got us off that track we were on, but I think we needed.
Well, yeah, we're gonna get that.
Yeah, we
But
gotta get
I
back
think,
to-
I think that was a good
Point.
middleman. I really do. Sandy has her hand raised.
yep. I agree with Wally on the DUI. I am not a drinker. However, some people go to a wedding, they go to a party, a one-time deal. And it doesn't take more than a couple of drinks to bring you over the legal limit. And should they be off the council for that reason? I don't think so. If you are in fact an alcoholic, that may be one thing. But if you're picked up one time because you made a mistake driving home from a wedding, I don't think you should have to leave the council.
Hey, Louis,
So you wanna say a felony excluding DUI?
Yep, I have, the felony and the moral turpitude are okay, but I don't think the DUI should be in there.
So you
And
have to
is it possible for the attorney to give the proper legal wording? Because none of us are attorneys.
Well,
And
that'll
so,
be reviewed.
Oh, in Maine it's
That'll
called,
be done under the review.
in Maine it's called OUI, not DUI. That's my fault. It's OUI, not DUI.
No, but anyway, it's OUIs are, a felony, right? They're a crime.
Not
No,
necessarily.
Yeah, he's got a point.
they're not necessarily good.
right, I mean, in the case,
It's not like speeding where 30 miles over speed limit is.
criminal offense.
I didn't think, I know your OUIs were felony, period.
No,
It
they're not.
depends on- it's-
And how many times they've done it.
Yep, because it can be brought down to a misdemeanor charge.
Yeah. And OUI,
I mean,
OUI
there,
applies.
there's your distinction, Matt.
Right.
There's your decision, felony, OUIs. So that addresses Sandy's issue of not being a one-time thing.
Well, yes, because
Because then, if you've done a felony, it's been something that's been really extreme, like, I do know that. Actually, I know of two people, that were impacted by a driver of an OUI. One of them's got burn scars all over her body, and that same incident, she lost her son. And as far as OUI, that's a choice someone makes to get behind the wheel.
Mhm.
It's a personal choice that questions your moral ethics and ethics. I mean, me personally, I don't, if I know I'm gonna be drinking, I don't, because my employment depends on my driving. I travel all over the state, all over New England.
mine
So
does too.
all you'd have to do is repeat the word felony. in OUI.
Yeah, I was gonna
I
say,
can
so
go
if
with
we clarify, like, if we point towards the OUI becoming like a felony charged OUI, I mean,
Well-
obviously they're not gonna do a felony if you.
State of Maine law dictates that OUI can lead to a felony. If you have multiple OUIs and you have been convicted by a judge of having OUIs multiple times, the judge can issue you a felony.
Or I would assume that in the same cases where there was an accident and someone was burned and so lost their life, that it's going to be upgraded from OUI. It's not
Oh,
going to stay an OUI.
That's a real good point.
Yeah, they get OUI plus they get
Also point out to you-
Vehicular manslaughter, what's the other one?
I'd
not
also
murder.
point- I'd like to,
manslaughter and
Vehicular manslaughter
Yeah.
is.
No, it's not.
I'd
Yeah,
like
that's
to
one.
point out,
Unintentional.
OUI. I'd like to point out that OUI in Maine is operating under the influence. If you're in a boat trolling somewhere on a hot day and have a couple too many beers and a game warden pulls you over, and all you were doing is riding along at barely moving speed, now you're operating under the influence.
Good point.
Well, it's the same. it's the
Yeah,
same
but do
thing
they
that
charge
we're
you with a
discussing now,
felony
Wally.
right there and
If
then?
you call it felony
Like,
OUI.
If, yeah, I was gonna say,
something serious is happening.
No.
I say we put,
That's my
I
point.
motion that we put felony in it.
yeah.
It's ahead of the
I-
OUI.
Cause I'm okay with OUI as long as it's like, but like, if we make sure that it's a felony
work,
charged
Wally?
OUI.
Say it again?
Putting felony in front of OUI. That way it's more than just. the accidental oops.
But that would still fall under felony. It shall be convicted of a felony, and then if you
Yeah.
put felony, comma, OUI felony,
So let's just take the OUI out.
I did. Yeah, so how it's reading right now, shall be convicted of a felony or crime involving moral turpitude during their term of office. Now, my question still remains is what is determined as moral turpitude? Do we leave that up to the council?
That's what it is today.
I would leave that.
So, but do we want to put at the end of it, moral turpitude during their term of office, at the discretion of the council? Like, who decides?
Well, the council decides whether or not if you're a pedophile before you run, you know,
Okay. So,
look at the council, I guess.
okay, good enough. So leave it the way it is. Any other changes?
Is everybody happy with the new reading? Do you want to go through it one more time?
C202 qualifications amended edition. Counselors shall be, or recommended edition. Counselors shall be qualified electors of the town of Millinocket and shall reside in the town of Millinocket during the term of office and shall be a registered voter of the town of Millinocket during their entire term in office. They shall hold no office of emolument or profit under the town charter or ordinances. If a counselor shall cease to possess any of these qualifications or shall be convicted of a felony or crime involving moral turpitude during their term of office, their office shall immediately become vacant.
Sounds good to me.
I agree.
Yeah, it does to me, except for one thing, and that is the shall reside during term of office and registered voter during term of office. you can sit at camp and decide if you don't get elected, you don't have to move to town. Maybe in order to take out the nomination papers, you have to reside in Millinocket and you have to be a resident to
I think that's already the case, isn't it?
consider it as a candidate.
I think it's on the nomination papers, isn't it, Peter?
Yeah, probably is.
That you have to be a resident, and it says it on the nomination
I
papers.
think it does.
Yeah, it already says that.
And anyone that's.
Has to be a resident.
Yeah, and it says that on there. Councilors shall be qualified electors of the town of Millinocket and shall reside in the town of Millinocket during their term of office. Okay, there's a lot of ands in the sentence. Shall be qualified electors of the town of Millinocket. This and should be taken out and should be a comma.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just gonna add it onto the end of that. Shall reside in the town of Millinocket during the term of office. All right. Councilors shall be qualified electors of the town of Millinocket, shall reside in the town of Millinocket during the term of office, and it shall be a registered voter of the town of Millinocket during their entire term in office. That reads much better.
Yeah. Palmer Rath office.
Which one?
Term of office. And beforehand. Go up.
Oh,
Right
that
there.
one. Okay.
Yep, right there. Bless you. Bless you.
Ta-da. I think that's a very nice change, personally. I like it the way it currently sits.
Any other comments on this section?
Yeah.
The Lord will do the recommendation.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Okay, C203, powers and duties generally. The members of the town council shall be and constitute the municipal officers of the town of Millinocket for all purposes required by statute and except as otherwise herein specifically provided, shall have all powers and authority given to and perform all duties required of municipal officers under the law of this state. And the municipal officers all have all the powers heretofore vested in the town meeting, subject to provisions of Article 9.
Article 9, that's down the road a ways.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's where it breaks down all of our powers.
Responsibilities.
Reads very funny.
So in that one there, I think the all have all. I think
Oh,
that
hold on.
second all should be taken out.
Wally does have changes, I'm sorry. The members of the town council shall be, he has highlighted, so it doesn't show what he recommended for changes on this document. So I'm assuming you guys had talked about it, but not made any final decisions. But he has B and highlighted and the municipal officers all highlighted.
Okay,
There was deletion.
because we had B and crossed out.
Yeah,
Sounded awkward. The members of the town council shall constitute the municipal officers.
Okay, so you're recommending B and be deleted?
Yeah, so that was just deleted, yeah.
Okay, and then you also recommended deleting the municipal officers all.
right.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and now you're.
No, I like the way they changed it.
Okay,
It sounds smoother.
It just reads better, but
You're correct.
okay, I'm gonna try this again. The members of the town council shall constitute the municipal officers of the town of Millinocket for all purposes required by statute and except as otherwise herein specifically provided, shall have all the powers and authority given to and perform all duties required of municipal officers under the laws of this state, and have all the powers heretofore vested in the town meeting subject to provision of Article 9. Much better, I agree. Now, under the laws of this state, should we have that changed to under the laws of the state of Maine where we've been doing it?
Yeah,
with every
you
other
want to be
section?
consistent, sure.
yes. We should be consistent. What if we've done it once and agreed, we should do it on all of them.
I agree.
You're very good at editing.
Thanks.
Fast, isn't it, Wally?
This is nice. You're doing a good job.
Thanks.
So from
The,
motion from this point on that we, when it comes to like that, we just automatically change it.
Yeah.
please just
Go
remind
ahead.
me. 'Cause-
Discuss it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like
Second,
he, his, her, whatever, those kind of changes. And Shim,
okay, third time's the charm. The members of the town council shall constitute the municipal officers of the town of Millinocket for all purposes required by statute and except as otherwise herein specifically provided, shall have all the powers and authority given to and perform all duties required of municipal officers under the laws of the state of Maine, and have all the powers heretofore vested in the town meeting subject to provisions of Article 9.
Should,
better.
should state be capitalized?
Yes,
Yes,
all right.
every time by everybody.
I agree.
all right. Any other discussion on this section? Okay, moving along, Rule 4.
C204. Enumeration of powers. Without limitations of foregoing, the council shall have powers to. Section A. Appoint and remove the town manager and the town clerk appointed by the Board of Assessment Review, the Board of Appeals, the Planning Board, and determine the manner of appointment of the following officers: assessor, treasurer, and town attorney. I just want to go back up and look at the format real quick. Okay. I'm just gonna bring that back to what it originally was. It's not gonna let me. Do it manually. Can I see yours real quick? The second page. Let's go D, E, F, G, H. Yeah. Oh my. E. K. It goes to K.
Yep.
Yeah. That last, very last section of that. Determine the manner of appointment of the following officers. In other words, that leaves a discretion to the council to delegate that to the manager or to hire them themselves. And I can see those offices being important enough that council may want to have some input on that.
Sorry, I'm not listening to you at the moment.
That's put on. I'm used to it.
What the hell's that supposed to be?
Means I ramble and some people won't listen.
I happen to be listening, but I did notice you said some. Use a different word.
Okay, I think I got it. All right, so. Section A, now that we're back on track.
Yeah. I just had in that last sentence, and determine the manner of appointment of the following officers.
Okay, what about it?
Well, it leaves it totally up to the council as to how these people are put into their offices. Whether they delegate to the manager, whether they
Okay.
bless his choice, or whether they choose the person themselves through being part of the interviews.
So how are you changing the reading so I
I'm
can?
not changing it.
Okay.
I'm bringing it up for discussion.
Oh, okay.
When we had discussed this before, we changed the word manner to process.
Right,
Determine the process of appointment for the following officers.
which is a little clarification on what's happening. You know, I think what's happened in the past is that we've been part of the interviews for those positions, and pretty much weighed in on, you know, approval or not voting on it, in open meeting. But, you know, given majority view of the council through the manager.
So appoint and remove the town manager and the town clerk, appoint the Board of Assessment Review, the Board of Appeals, the Planning Board, and determine the process of appointment of the following officers: assessor, treasurer, and town attorney.
I'm just explaining the way it works now. The council is right in the middle of those three positions.
I was just reading the change that,
Yeah.
while I had
They're,
recommended.
they're not like leaving it up to the administrator to choose.
Any other changes?
You know, could add some like CID in there. I mean, there's, you know, do you want to leave it the way it is, to limit to that, or add or subtract?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Because that CID is a brand new position. That's,
It should be added in there
Well,
if we plan on keeping that position, which
you know, consider what the responsibilities are, and if you'd rather for us. Now, the manager has a definite stake in who the CID would be given. He's getting kickback, if you will, from bringing economic development in. And that would, you know, weigh heavily on, we'd have to help them get grants and whatever positions for, you know, doing that kind of economic development work.
so basically it would be officers, assessors, treasurer, town attorney, and CID.
Well, that's if you think so. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know of any other positions that you might want to consider.
I'm curious from hearing from the public members on their perspective on that.
I think that's unnecessary. I think it's
Overreaching.
council to administration.
That's why I said so.
The assessor has powers that in some way
Check 'em.
outweigh the council. For example, the mill rate,
Right,
you know, no matter what the council says,
they can do
the
an
assessor
overlay.
is licensed and certified and has the authority to set that at whatever rate they see appropriate. Taking lots of data into consideration and law, you know, the treasurer is an officer who handles or oversees a roughly $6 million
Budget.
expense budget, and the town attorney is
The town attorney.
uh, those three positions are different level
And CID.
than any of the other positions.
And I agree with Peter. I feel like that position is more of a department head than
Administrative,
anything. Yeah.
Okay,
I feel like that should be left up to the manager to decide the hiring and firing and decisions of appointment for that position.
For example, right, at the school, right, the superintendent hires and fires, right, but for administrative level positions, principals, assistant principals, the council is involved in that, or the school board is involved in that process, but they don't have the authority to make decisions.
they don't.
That would be comparable to treasurer, assessor, those types of officials. On the municipal side of the conversation. But like when she hires a teacher, there's no involvement, it's just an update. You know, there's no approval, there's no, you know,
That's right.
and the same when we hire for like public works, we hire for
Well, it's like the CID was hired this first one. We set the policy that we wanted one and approved money for it, and he chose the person.
So would that fall under adding it to this where we determined the process for the CID?
No.
Is that what you're,
No.
okay.
that was.
I'm just clarifying.
No, I'm just
Right.
supporting what he's.
No, okay,
That it's an administrative function.
I was just clarifying, that's all.
I think the council's involvement in that process was due to not having a permanent
Well, it was,
done throughout an interim.
this last time was because the council's involved because
New position, new
Created it.
monies.
we're creating a new position.
Now,
But still, you chose the person.
correct, but the process started under my predecessor.
Yeah.
was
Bless you.
Interim manager. Council.
So back to section A, is there any other recommended changes?
I don't, so
No,
the
just-
process.
Just the process.
Any other comments?
All right,
All right.
section B. By ordinance, create, change, and abolish offices, departments, or agencies other than the offices, other than the offices, departments, and agencies established by this charter. The council by ordinance may assign additional functions or duties to offices, departments, or agencies established by this charter, but may not discontinue or assign to any other office, department, or agency any function or duty assigned by this charter to a particular office, department, or agency. The council may, however, vest in the manager all or part of the duties of any office except the school department. Okay, I gotta actually look
You
at this.
gotta reread that a few times so you understand it.
Yeah,
Really.
so the computer is recommending a comma after change, which I agree with. Because there isn't currently one in mine. If there is in your guys's, please tell me.
Nope, there isn't.
By ordinances, create, change, and abolish offices, departments, or agencies other than the offices, departments, and agencies established by this charter. So it's recommending a comma after departments, which should be a comma. And then the second, third, fourth, I don't know, fifth department, it's recommending another comma. There's a lot of commas in this one.
Yeah. It makes sense, though.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
What it's saying to me is that the council has charge of the town and you can't give it away except to the manager who's your employee.
Right.
And that's we don't want a lot of changes to that.
No,
Just grammatical changes.
and actually I see why they didn't, the comma isn't in a lot of those.
Can you explain?
Yep. Okay, so if you look at it, by the ordinance created, change, and abolish offices, because change and abolish offices is one portion of it.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Well,
And that's
you
why
would
they
still
did-
need to comma after change, wouldn't you? Because it'd be the final subject.
You know the distinction between the first two sentences? You gather that?
By ordinances, create, change, and abolish offices, departments, or agencies other than the office, departments, and agencies established by this charter. So it's saying by ordinance, create, change, and abolish, hold on. Without limitations or foregoing, the council shall have powers to, by ordinances, create, change, and abolish offices, departments, or agencies other than the offices and departments and agencies established by this charter. You gotta include that first part in order for it to make sense. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm tired. Yes, I get it. It's saying that we can't abolish offices that are in the charter, but we can if they're not listed in the charter.
Right. And then the third sentence.
The
Charter.
council, but the council by ordinance may assign additional functions or duties to offices, departments, or agencies established by this charter, but may not discontinue or assign to any other office, department, or agencies any functions or duties assigned by this charter to a particular office, department, or agency. Compound sentence.
More legal, Joe.
More legal jargon.
All
It's,
good stuff, though.
it's a messed up sentence, but I think it needs to stay the way it is.
Yeah.
Other than the commas that we've obviously added. I think adding a comma after change is giving you a breath between and abolish offices. I don't think it's like messing up how it's interpreted at all. Or after departments every single time. It'd be different if it was like a period, but yeah. So other than the comma changes, is there any?
When we discussed it before, it was recommended that we capitalize the word ordinance in the second line, at the end of the second line. I don't know if it needs to be or not, but I have that in my notes here. I'm happy either way, but that's just one that we'd written down.
Ordinance isn't a noun though. Is it? No, it's not.
An ordinance,
It's not a person, place, or thing. It's
Yeah, it can be a thing because an ordinance is a rule.
it's a ruling, but like the state of Maine is a place. Just because we're talking about it in a document doesn't mean that it's not a place. An ordinance can just be a piece of paper that says a law.
Yeah, it's basically saying we can add functions to these departments,
It's not physical.
but we can't change the ones that are under the charter because the manager follows the charter.
I don't think it needs to be capitalized. I get why council or state would be capitalized or manager, but I don't think ordinance is necessary personally. I don't know how other people feel, but
and like I say, I don't care either way. I just noted that I had it written here.
is it done in other places?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
No, if you look at the first sentence of C, that says ordinances, and it's not capitalized.
So they didn't do it in the rest of the document either.
No.
Okay.
No, so any other, well, we didn't change anything.
No.
Just
the comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
I promise the minutes will be short this time.
Ah,
All right, section C. Make, alter, and repeal ordinances, including under this power, shall be the power to enact ordinances regulating the following classes of persons, businesses, and purposes to grant licenses and permits, therefore, for such periods of time in accordance with such rules and regulations, not inconsistent with law, upon payment by the licensee of such fee and filing of such bonds as said town council may establish and make provisions for by ordinance to mine, I think got messed up in translation.
to wit,
It is to wit.
to wit.
Can I? It's okay. So to wit, auctioneers, the maintenance and operating of garages, filling stations, sidewalk tanks, and pumps for the sale or distribution of gasoline and other all right, can we just split the page and we'll do the second part after? This is a very long section.
Auctioneer should be a comma instead of semicolon.
I agree.
The only change so far would be after to wit, but not limited to. And then the examples.
Hold on one second. So changing that to a comma instead of a semicolon. And then you recommended
Right after to wit, then starts listing auctioneer.
the main right,
Right after the word wit,
okay. What do you want me to put?
but not limited to the
But
examples listed.
Not limited to the examples.
No,
Okay, just making sure that
but not limited to, and then the semicolon listing or whatever. Because we don't know what kind of activity will, come along that we want to include in here.
marijuana stores are not in there, and that's an issue now,
well,
Yeah.
and that brings up your point, but not limited to.
But not limited to, yeah, because we can't start listing every little thing that we think of now that
That's
may
right.
not even exist in the future.
Because they don't have short-term rentals in there either.
There you go.
There should be a comma between sidewalk and tanks. I don't think there's sidewalk tanks.
Sidewalk tanks.
I've never seen one.
Okay, so then we start.
Tanks on the sidewalk and where?
It's different, is it? All right, part 2 of section C. Violate flammable liquids for fuel or power, the manufacture, storage, sale, transportation, disposition, and use of explosives and flammable liquids, billiard halls, pool halls, bowling alleys, roller skating rinks, junk dealers. There should not be a semicolon between junk and dealers. Does anybody else have that, or is it just?
Yep, nope, all of them are. Flammable liquid should be a comma.
Okay, we'll go back and. Okay. Junk dealers in secondhand parts or salvage of automobile dealers in secondhand merchandise, hawkers and peddlers, employment agencies, itinerant vendors, public automobiles, taxi cabs and motor buses, public wagons and trucks, amusements, exhibitions and performances, theaters, moving picture houses, inns, viculars, pawnbrokers, lodging houses of four, lodging rooms or more, public shooting galleries, the manufacture, storage, sale, distribution, and use of fireworks, dance halls, circuses, and the erection of signs, flags, banners, awnings, marquees, and all other things within the limits of the sidewalks, roads, ways, and streets of said town, and no such objects placed within said limits in accordance with such ordinances shall be deemed defective in such sidewalks, roads, ways, and streets. They list a lot of things in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we
There
have?
was
I think that was a translation error. I don't think they're supposed to be semicolons, so I'm just gonna go back and turn them back.
They are semicolons through the whole document.
So that's the original, or is that the one that?
Well, I'm looking at, it's all semicolons after everyone.
So for yours it is too, so they do need to be changed to, okay, that's a lot of.
And, and the one you read of 4 lodging rooms or more, that kind of leads us to the discussion of short-term rentals and bed and breakfasts and.
we had discussed editing that out. Just
Yeah.
having lodging houses and edit out the of 4 lodging rooms or more.
Okay, I can only
Delete
do one
that
thing at a
maybe.
time. Give me just 1 second to change all these semicolons.
Yeah.
Oh, there should not be one there. Person sells automobiles. Dealers in secondhand merchandise. Peddlers.
I was gonna bring the water bottle and never did. Had a-
If I hadn't already started drinking one, I would have got you.
No, that's quite all right.
But I've been drinking out of the box.
Man, who put all these semicolons in here?
Some
Somewhere.
lawyer. You'll take all your comments, you'll put them back in.
I'll be very sad. I love how some of these numbers and some of these are semicolons.
And some of these we no longer have in the town. We used to.
And they may grow up here again.
Hopefully, true.
Hopefully they do come back.
Okay. Now I can act on that. Oh. Okay, that's gonna take me a minute to do. So what was the conversation? Lodging houses.
Just eliminate up for lodging rooms or more, those words.
Okay, so it would read pawnbrokers, lodging houses, comma, lodging rooms or more.
Public shooting galleries.
Nope, larger rooms where you just take that out.
You were taking out lodging rooms or more.
Yeah.
Because you're stopping it right at lodging houses.
Really?
I'm at the lodging
Right.
houses.
All right, this is gonna take me a minute to do. So if you guys want to talk about other changes, please be my guest.
Talk amongst yourselves, eh?
Get top peanuts. He's doing that.
We used to have a peanut vendor downtown.
Really?
Yeah, I used to have a little cart that was George Simon. had some kid rolling a peanut cart, hot peanuts. And they had, cotton candy every Wednesday there when I had the entertainment in the park. Had little street vendors, pushing little carts, selling stuff. Smelled good. I used to shine the shoes there for quarter a piece, and some guy give me $1 and I thought I was in heaven.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Built my own shoe shine box.
Back when gas was,
35 cents a gallon.
Yep.
I remember those days. When I first hit town.
Wish I could say.
Yep, and they used to stand and lean up against the bowling alley. We did 20, 30 years later.
oh, I missed the bowling alley.
It made me so angry.
Okay, I think I got them all.
To go just so you can get.
Yeah, so we could
Sure.
just take the claim on it.
I think that the
You'd be so
discussion for a
upset.
different time,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
not gonna
weren't.
agree or disagree. So I think I got them all. Was there any other changes other than the comma and semicolon deletions and additions and the deletion of 4 lodging rooms or more?
No.
No other changes.
Not to me.
Now, there was a discussion earlier about adding marijuana.
Really?
What's the legal jargon name for marijuana
Medical
dispensary?
cannabis.
Medical cannabis. Do we want to include that somewhere, or do we just want to leave it with but not limited to?
But not limited to, because that,
Just making sure, that's
it's
all.
recreational now. It's a regular business down in Medway that's
But it's not in town. That's why I'm
simply
at.
because we passed a specific ordinance to opt out of something that we were opted out of in the first place. I love that one. That was fun.
Maybe one day we'll get.
That's when I get outed.
So any other recommended changes or no? Seeing none. Going once, going twice, so, all right,
Thank
D.
you.
Inquire into the conduct of any office, department, or agencies of the town and make investigations to municipal affairs. Is as needed in that sentence and make investigations as to municipal affairs, or could it just read?
Well, there was some discussion here.
Oh, we're in D already? D, Wally had a recommended change of an addition to the end to read, town council shall also have the authority to O2 place and a department head on paid leave until an investigation is complete. Okay, I agree with that. I don't know how others feel. I'll wait until I hear more.
Well, given the history of what we went through with the department head, sitting manager disagreed and kept in place when the town was falling down around our ankles with people being disrupted in their homes and everything else. Seems like any department head should be under at least that little bit of authority of the council. Order them to be on paid leave or.
So for those of you at home, inquire into conduct of any office, department, or agency of the town and make investigations as to municipal affairs. Town council shall also have the authority to place a department head on paid leave until an investigation is completed.
That way there's no financial harm, but the irritant is not over the way.
So is as needed in that sentence. I really don't think it is. Town and make investigations to municipal affairs. This, I think, reads fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody have any comments regarding that proposed change?
I think it's a nice addition, given, like what you just said. I think it leaves room for things to be investigated without there being a conflict of interest or further,
Financial employees?
Yeah.
Okay, then.
Section E, adopt land survey maps. I don't like it.
That's part of subdivision, they'll bring it up.
Seeing none. F, adopt and modify the official map of the town. Should it read of the town of Milwaukee?
Yep, because we,
We did talk about that. And that's one we just did a change on.
Okay. G, regulate and restrict the height and the number of stories of buildings and other structures, the size of yards and courts, the density of population, and location and use of buildings for trade, industry, business, residence, or other purpose.
That's what zoning ordinance is all about. Maybe that should be mentioned. That we do, we do it zoning ordinance change.
So where are you recommending that?
Wouldn't know how to place it in there. Where that's read. They didn't have zoning. Or even when we reviewed it, they didn't think.
There should be a comma after residence. I know that. And can you repeat that one more time? I'm sorry. So you're recommending we add in,
Reference that these kind of changes be done through zoning ordinance.
so regulate, restrict the height. So how it would read in full would be, without limitations of foregoing, the council shall have power to regulate and restrict the height and number of stories of buildings and other structures, the size of yards and courts, the density of population, and the location and use of buildings for trade, industry, business, residence, or other purposes
Through zoning ordinance.
through zoning ordinance. Through
Because
zoning.
anything that the planning board wants done through zoning ordinance comes to the council anyway. Right, just referencing the mechanism that we do it through in practice today.
I like that. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. Anybody else?
One of the changes?
I
No.
guess. H, create a
So something more- wait, when I built my garage, they told me that there was a size limit on that, a height limit, which I was easily under. But was that a zoning ordinance that did that?
It was, and
Okay,
we recently changed the height limitations of buildings in Millinocket zoning ordinance recently.
Some areas.
in some areas.
Some zone,
and yeah, that's right, and I remember
not in
when
Peter's zone.
we talked about the airport too, there were definite limitations on how high buildings can be leading to the runway,
Yeah, that's a federal
things like
regulation
that. Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
We always defer to those. We can only go more restrictive. We can't go more liberal on federal laws.
Right.
H, create a housing authority.
We have one.
I don't know.
We do not. We do not. We can if we want, I guess. What would they do?
So
Create housing.
just a thought, if there is ever a time that they do decide to want to do this, the council, should we also have a housing or rent authority, or do we want to just leave it under housing? Or I know like Montreal, I've done a lot of research on some of the things that Canada cities are doing, and they have a housing authority and then they have a rent authority where they focus on just rent. Just food for thought.
There would be another board that create that wouldn't have volunteers for.
No, I'm not asking for a creation of it. I'm saying create a housing / rent authority.
No.
Is my recommendation.
And or I would.
Right, that's what
You want it separate, big enough someday.
right, and that's always left open for future charter review committees to separate
Yeah, or rental authority.
/ rental authority. Considering there's not one right now.
Well, if you use a slash, does that mean it's one authority?
As it stands right
And/or
now,
it could be two authorities.
that was my original recommendation, and then I said, well, we could just leave it under one since neither one exists at the moment. So I could word it, create a housing and rental authority
And
or.
or.
Rental is considered housing, though. Why does it need to be two separate things?
Like I just said, there are some cities that separate housing a housing authority versus renting authority. So there are some cities in Canada that have a housing board that they deal with just housing ordinances and housing policy, and then they have a renting board that deals with rent prices, rental arguments, things that deal with strictly renting agreements. And may potentially in the future fall under short-term rentals. If we ever decided to create a board, one would deal with strictly rentals and one would deal with strictly housing. Neither board exists as it stands right now. There is no housing authority. It just gives the council the option to create one in the future.
One or two.
One or two. So it's saying if the council chooses in the future, they could create a rental housing authority or a housing and a rental authority.
Just looking to make things work in the future.
Right. Depending if the bill.
In light of the Airbnb issue, and added to that the recent discussion of low-cost housing, of changing the Aroostook Avenue School, for example, there may be room for both of those.
And right, that's kind of why I'm bringing it up. Is it?
Yeah.
In the short-term future that we have, there may be a time within the next couple of years that the council says we need a renting board or we need a housing board to discuss these options. This just gives the council the authority to create that board. We're putting in the charter that the council has the authority to make a rental board or make a housing board.
Okay.
Yeah. My wife doesn't always agree with me, but I believe you can't have too many tools.
I agree. My wife may not agree either, but
Yeah.
My husband
my
always
recommendation.
agrees with me.
That's a good tool.
Yep.
Mhm.
Any other recommended changes for H?
Sounds good.
There is nothing on C8. All right. Section I, adopt, modify, and carry out. There should be no period between carry and out.
There is not one for me.
There is not one. How about for you? Is there a period?
Is there a period after carry?
Carry. I have a period between. Oh, you have a dash.
I don't have anything, but just space. I put the.
You put that?
Yep,
Okay.
it's an extra space.
I guess it's just mine. Adopt, modify, and carry out plans proposed by the planning board for the clearance of some districts and rehabilitation of blighted areas.
Had some changes.
Yes, the recommended change is the deletion of clearance of slum districts and rehabilitation in blighted areas and changing it to, clearance, rehabilitation, and to remediation of blighted areas and or properties. Adopt.
I have the word clearance. Keeping clearance comma. Rehabilitation.
Right, that's the beginning of the sentence.
Oh,
So this is how he has it on the screen, is he deleted clearance of slums and put clearance, comma, rehabilitation and or remediation. So it would read, adopt, modify, and carry out plans proposed by the planning board for the clearance, rehabilitation, and or remediation of blighted areas and or properties.
Yeah, I would think that would read a little bit better.
We had this marked from last time we looked at it, and I'm not sure it should be changed. And I'm thinking, for example, rehabilitation of blighted areas. We are surrounded by woods. You get a drought for a year or two, and there's a fire, and a whole neighborhood burns, and all the people just abandon the houses because they can't afford to deal with it. The town's going to have to. And again, this is a set of tools, and that's just one instance that I can think of. And you think of slum districts, what some of the cities are going through with homeless encampments and stuff, we got to have a place for these folks, but it doesn't necessarily have to be everywhere that they pop up. We gotta be able to jump on things and have the tools to regulate it and make sure it happens in an acceptable way.
There's
Yeah.
not really a major
Only,
change.
lighted areas would take into consideration a slum district.
Well,
It would fall under that definition.
Well, the change that you had sent me for this section doesn't say that there can't be a clearance. Really, the only addition is remediation is changed, or is added, I should say. So it reads clearance, rehabilitation, and or remediation, versus the first one that doesn't have remediation in it. So there really isn't a major change other than adding one word. It's just saying the council has the options to clear it, rehabilitate it, or remediation.
We eliminated word slum area.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Slum.
And that was also eliminated. Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's a blighted area. It's, you know, it's still taken under consideration.
And it sounds better than saying slum districts.
I agree, because what's defined as a slum district?
Exactly. Blighted
I don't think-
could be a whole bunch of different.
Pines, get rid of the pines.
Oh, hey, wait a minute.
I live there.
I like the new change personally, and I think blighted covers slums portion.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody happy?
Okay, J, adopt, modify, and carry out plans proposed by the planning board for replanning, improvement, and redevelopment of neighborhoods for the replanning, reconstruction, and redevelopment of any area or district which may have been destroyed in the whole or in part by disaster. That's just a spacing issue, but should it say replanning, improvements, and redevelopment? Or are we talking about just one improvement?
I think,
Got quiet.
Yeah,
yeah, I think the recommended change is better.
Adding an S on the end of improvements.
Like replanning, improvements, and the redevelopment of neighborhoods.
And a comma after modify. So how it would read now. I forgot to add the comma. Adopt, modify, and carry out plans proposed by the planning, replanning, improvements, and rehabilitation of neighborhoods for the replanning, reconstruction, or redevelopment of any area or district which may have been destroyed in whole or in part by disaster.
Cool.
And K, provide for an annual.
Yeah.
Take it out.
Somewhere in the office there was probably a copy of the emergency action plan from Brookfield showing what happens to the town of Millinocket if Rip Dam goes.
It's a lot bigger than a book.
Oh, you're friggin' right it is. I wrote it. I wrote one of the original copies of it.
When I worked at 911 dispatch in Penobscot County, they used to have like a center round table that had a bunch of shelves on it. And
Yeah,
it was probably in diameter 5 feet across, 4 feet across. And the whole center of it had 2 shelves on every single side of it. And every single side was filled with disaster response codes for what would happen if Rip Dam went.
yeah.
What Millinocket?
It's incredible. And a
Why
lot
do you have such a
of
big book that
Millinocket
disappears?
is an inundation zone.
It's a lot of legal jargon, Louis.
Somebody's job security, Wally's back then.
Right?
Well, the thing of it is that the design of the plan they say what happens if like a comet hit it and the whole thing vaporized, and that doesn't happen with concrete dams. But that's just one example of something that can happen. In 49, Bar Harbor burned. There was a big fire on the island. You know, you just don't know what's coming next, and you need sharp tools to deal with them.
Well, good job today, people. I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
I
No
second.
second? Oh,
Hey, there we go.
Yeah.
all in favor? I'll take that as unanimous.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we did. We chugged right through it.
I feel like we accomplished some
So
stuff.
step back for next. So is it next meeting that we're stepping back to discuss the
C2
term
on
limit
yeah.
question?
Well, that's it.
That'll be under
How
old
much time
business.
have we got from next meeting?
I do have one question though. Sandra, do you prefer Sandra or Sandy?
It doesn't matter to me.
Okay,
Just don't
okay.
call me late.
Right.
No, I just didn't want to be, rubbing you the wrong way.
Nope, nope, doesn't matter to me.
All right, good. Thank you. Okay.
I'm gonna do
Oh,
some.
see you guys.
See what municipalities are doing. and
Thank
see if
you.
I